Good day, viewers. Welcome to a new edition of 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television with me, Manir Dan Ali. Our guest today is a journalist of many years' experience who has crossed over to the activist side of non-governmental organization. I'm talking about Malam Isa Sanusi, who is the country head of Amnesty International here in Nigeria. Malam Isa Sanusi, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Manir, for having me. Thank you very much.
I saw recently that you had a day that you celebrated alongside other activist organizations on what you call the disappeared. Who are the disappeared?
Well, every 30th of August every year, we celebrate this day for the victims of enforced disappearance. And what we mean by disappeared, enforced disappeared, are those people who were either taken away from their homes and their families, and the state refused to acknowledge that, they have been taken.
So you are talking about people whose disappearance is related to state activity, that is government activity, where maybe there is the suspicion that it's not something else, it must be connected with government.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sometimes not only government, sometimes non-state actors, like armed groups, like strong political parties that are in opposition. They also disappear people. And that we learn based on our experience working as a global organization. So the victims might be as a result of activities, of the government or non-governmental organizations or non-state actors.
And do they get disappeared because of their activities, because of what they are doing or saying, or how does it work?
Mostly it has to do with that. And in most cases, criminality also come in. For example, somebody who is thinking that somebody is either blocking his opportunities to get something can use non-state actors to disappear that person. So it is not, there is no any blanket definition of what it might be, but it's generally a crime under international law. Because
we saw that in the past, this kind of activity, that's disappearing people, is more commonly associated with maybe Latin America, where under Augusto Pinochet, the former military ruler there for a long time, thousands of people are said to have been disappeared. Some were alleged to have even been taken up on aeroplane and just pushed out in the middle of the ocean. When did this kind of thing come to Nigeria?
Well, this thing started in Nigeria from the military days, and it became more prominent because during the days of the military, there were many people that were disappeared. So instead of the state picking somebody and acknowledging that, yes, we pick him, they just disappear the person. And is one of the landmarks of dictatorship and bad governance. And it is unfortunate that it also happened where there is conflict. For example, in the northeast Nigeria, for example, in Sri Lanka, where the Tamil Tigers, revolt, took a lot of, so many thousands of people are still not accounted for, despite the fact that in Sri Lanka, the fight with Tamil Tigers has ended and everything is gone. Likewise, in Nigeria, we have a situation whereby we are now talking about peace in the northeast.
And we are also talking about democracy, because the military have been gone from the scene for over 20 years.
Yes.
We've been under civil rule.
Yes, and unfortunately, we still have this thing happening. And one of the most prominent cases of recent is the case of Abubakar Idris Dadiata, who was widely known as a critic of Nigerian government, critic of some prominent politicians on the social media.
Okay, you are talking of that online activist in Kaduna.
Yes, he
who
was
has
based
disappeared
in Kaduna.
for nearly 4 years now.
Over 4 years now.
What's the latest about him?
There is no any information about him, and that is clearly how a typical case of enforced disappearance is. There will be no any information, no any news, and there will be no any update, and everyone will just keep quiet.
What of all your best effort, I mean, as Amnesty International, with all your wide reach and contact locally, internationally? You haven't been able to
in fact,
decipher where he could be held or hidden or disappeared?
We couldn't. In fact, we even launched an international campaign for him, which involved 152 countries where Amnesty International has offices. And we have done our best, the family have done their best, but there was no any information up to now.
Can you take us back to when this thing happened 4 years ago? How did it happen? Was it on the street, at his house, at some occasion, or how did it all take place?
It happened on the 2nd of August in 2019. He was a lecturer at the Federal University in Dusamas, Katsina State, and he normally traveled between Katsina and Kaduna, where his family are based. So on that fateful day, he returned home, and when he came into Kaduna, he called his wife and told her that I'm on my way home. And the wife prepared food and everything. And the moment he drove into the house in Barnawa, and some gunmen just followed up.
How do we know
forcefully.
It is government? How do we know? Because there are assumptions.
Saying government, I say
gunmen.
Yes,
gunmen.
Yes,
right.
Yes, gunmen followed in, and they just took him away.
Did anybody witness the act of taking him away?
Yes, his wife was there, and the narrative we had is from his wife. She was present.
She saw the people.
She saw the people, but they covered their faces, and they were carrying, the type of guns that, because his brother told me that they later asked her, what type of gun? They even went and printed pictures of guns so that they will get to the bottom of the matter. What type of gun? And it's quite a different type, not AK-47, which, if you are following conflicts in Nigeria, you
the
definitely
police
will
and
be
the non-state actors all use it. But this particular one, they are talking about a different type of guns. And we know some of the Nigerian security services do use some other guns other than the AK-47.
Definitely. And the Directorate of State Security Services, the intelligence arm of Nigerian government, denied having him in their custody. Likewise, the Nigerian police, and that was the end. There was no any effort to trace him, no any effort to find out what happened to him, even to tell the family that, well, this is what we have been doing. This is the extent we went to in terms of deploying technology, in terms of using security networks, because they used his iPhone to determine exactly the point at which his phone was switched off. And it was towards a direction which was leading out of Kaduna, as if you are going to what they call Command Junction in Kaduna. So there was all the detail is around.
But somehow the trail has grown cold. Nobody can be sure. I mean, this is 4 years after.
Definitely. And the family is still left in anguish because they don't even know where to go to. They have done their best. They have written again and again, and there was no any information. And that is why everyone is concerned, and that is why every human being should be concerned. If this can happen to Dadieta, it means it can happen to anybody. And when you look at the pattern in the northeast,
exactly, that is where I wanted us to go, because this is one case that happens here in the northwest, where there was no conflict probably at that time. Of course, there was the banditry and what have you, but all the hallmarks do not suggest banditry.
Definitely.
What about the northeast? Because I know there have been reports of thousands at a time of people who have been arrested, who have been taken to particular detention facilities, and who have not been seen since then.
In the northeast, the story is pathetic and is as bad as that of Sri Lanka with the case of Tamil Tigers. Because last week we were in Maiduguri, and even before that we have been consulting with families of missing persons. And one of the partner organizations that we work with had registered over 23,000 people.
23,000 individuals?
Yes, missing. 23,000.
Does it include the alleged Boko Haram fighters, or these are people unconnected?
These are people that are unconnected, normal
activity.
people who go out. Some go to market, say, okay, leaving home to go to market disappeared. Leaving home to go to school disappeared. In fact, there was even one very heart-touching case that we received of one boy who was just writing his final year examination in the College of Legal Studies in Maiduguri. He went to school, he left home quite ready to write his final paper for his diploma. And that was the day he was picked up by the military, and nothing has been heard about him.
In his own case, were there witnesses that is indeed the military and not somebody else that picked him up?
Definitely, definitely. The family has evidence that it was the military that picked that boy.
Were they able to trace him to any military facility?
There was no any information about him. In fact, when we went to Maiduguri recently, we were dealing with cases of people disappeared from 2009, 2010. But a woman came in and she said that she wants us to give her an opportunity to speak. And she was telling us that her husband was missing just 12 months ago. That is 1 year. So it's not as if the problem is over, and I have to make it clear that it's not as if it's only, most of the disappeared are largely either the military only. The non-state actors also disappear people because they just pick people, kill them if they refuse to do what they want them to do, and that is the end.
That is, if it's in the northeast, we are talking of possibly Boko Haram.
Yes.
Because they are still
Definitely.
Rampaging in some areas.
Yes, yes. And some people, they just have maybe personal grudges with somebody, and somebody will just go and say, well, this man is Boko Haram or something like that. Or this man go to Boko Haram and say, well, this man is a military intelligence person, because they know Boko Haram are looking for these people, and that is the end. So it's a very complicated matter. And that is why, as an organization, we tell the government that, look, you can't be talking about peace in the Northeast without addressing this problem. Even the International Red Cross had registered 25,000. So you can be addressing, you know, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, there was a conference in Borno State to gather funds for building peace. But how can you build peace when many families cannot connect with your idea of peace? When their loved ones go to a mosque, they couldn't come back. There was a case of Ali Kaumi, who is a very well-known person in one village called Bobosho in Dikwa local government area. He went to his farm. He told his family, I'm going to Maiduguri to buy seedlings for my farm. Along the way, the family was told that he was arrested by the military, and up to now, there was no information. And this happened in 2014.
Very interesting point you are making, and I think you should help us to unpack it much further when we resume from this short break.
Thank you.
Viewers, it is 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television, and our guest today is the country head of Amnesty International, Malam Isa Sanusi. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it is 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television. And our guest today is the country head of Amnesty International, Malam Isa Sanusi. You are mentioning the numbers, 25,000 by the Red Cross who are listed as disappeared, and similar numbers by a different organization. How are you engaging with the Nigerian authorities, especially the military, who in some instances of the disappearances are being accused of having a hand to do with it?
Well, the way we interact with them is by officially writing to them and seeking information on people that we consider whose families have provided us with details. We write to them and ask them, okay, so-so family had contacted us, so-so person was picked by your men, or when you carried out a security operation in so area, this person has not been seen. Provide us with information about this person.
And do they provide the information?
Not at all. Not at all.
Has it been a one-way communication?
Yeah,
you haven't been getting cooperation from them?
Is one way. We never receive any response to say that, okay, this is what happened, this is what happened. And what we also try to do is that we also encourage them, because when the conflict in the Northeast started, there was so much arbitrary arrest. People will just be rounded up and be accused of being Boko Haram, and they will be held. Some will die in custody. And when these arrests are made, there was no any basis legally for it. And because the arrest is arbitrary, you hardly can find any record on the people arrested.
But from your interaction with them, have you been able to establish whether they do keep a register of people that they round up or they arrest or they pick at different times, so that at least there is an idea, they will know that Mr. So was taken at so time, so place, and
well, we have never been given, that opportunity. But I know that there are other organizations who say that they have even recently been granted the opportunity to look at, to get access to some detention centers. So as far as we are concerned, we have not had that kind of opportunity. But I will also want to bring you to the issue of the incidents in December, between 12th and 14th December 2015, when the military killed members of Islamic movement of Nigeria in Zaria. And after that incident...
That is the Shia...
Yeah, the Shia followers, yes. After that incident, many families of people who were there on that day reported them missing. Some were arrested and some were later released by the military. But there were many that have not been heard from, have not been heard about up to now, since that day.
Is there a number? Do your organization
I remember
have
that
an idea of the number?
I remember that the last time we had an event, I think we were brought a list of over 200 people.
Who are, outside the 300 or so people that are said to have been killed?
Definitely, and that figure is one official figure. So at that time, I remember that we have over 200 people, and these people provided us with their pictures.
So they are not just names, but even
names.
their pictures and probably their residences, where they are based, just to establish their bona fide.
Definitely. Up to now, we have those pictures and those details. And I remember that we wrote the authorities of Nigeria, both the security agencies, to demand explanation about these things, but nothing has come.
But are you aware that sometimes Amnesty International and organizations like yours are viewed with suspicion by the authorities? In fact, they see you as maybe foreign interlopers or agents of some foreign interests.
Yeah, definitely. We always hear this thing. Even ordinary people tend to think like that sometimes. But I am of the opinion that, human rights is not something even to debate about. Amnesty International is not even what people think it is. It's not an organization per se, or NGO per se, as people say. It's a movement. And people don't even know that Amnesty International does not have a financier that will say, okay, I want you to propagate my doctrines in whatever you are doing. Amnesty International is financed by individuals, people who are passionate. But you
still get paid. You are not doing it free.
Definitely. Definitely, and there is no way you can do this kind of work without being paid. Any work you have to be paid. But what I am trying to say is that the organization is just a movement. It's not like a corporation where you have returns, where you have people who look forward to achieving something. It's just a group of passionate people across the world who give in $1, $2, 100 naira, just to make sure that human rights is protected. And that is why the organization was able to survive all the political changes across the world from 1961 to date, a situation whereby the organization was able to stand up and challenge any government and challenge any company and challenge any business and challenge any authority, no matter how powerful and how vicious it can be.
But beyond raising awareness about this disappeared and other similar cases, what more can you do? Because it doesn't give comfort to the families of these people.
We always believe that campaigning is one of the very potent ways of bringing change in a society. And apart from that, what we do is that we don't just, when we do campaign, we do all the soft things and they are not working. We also do what we call strategic litigation. If we like, for example, if we exhaust all the means that we have, we can take the issue of, for example, Dadiata to a court, a regional court like the African court or the ECOWAS court.
Not a Nigerian court.
Or any other Nigerian court. We can even take it to a Nigerian court, a normal Nigerian court, file a case and ask the authorities to answer questions. And that is what we do in the form of strategic litigation. So we don't only stop at, we do our best and we exhaust all the legitimate means of pursuing justice for individuals.
As you said earlier, the disappeared are not just talking about those who may have been disappeared by state actors. What about the non-state actors? How do you engage with, say, Boko Haram or the bandits that are rampaging a lot of the rural areas in the northwest?
We believe that as the modern setting of government provided, we believe that the ultimate power and authority and responsibility lies on the shoulders of the government. Because I and you are all powerless when the government is around. And the reason why the government exists is not just to provide lavish life for some group of people, but to make sure that the government can do for us what we cannot do. And Amnesty International firmly believes that the government has the capacity. It's always that there is no will to do it. So when it comes to non-state actors, why would non-state actors exist if the government is effective? We know that every society has its own problems, and time upon time, no time in the history of humanity where you don't have problem in every society. But we believe that the modern day government has all the resources, has all the power, has all the authority. If the government likes today, it can do anything. And that is why where the government has the will, you will see something that you think will not happen, happening.
So you won't negotiate, or you don't negotiate with, say, the bandits, assuming you know that XYZ number of disappeared people are with them?
No, we don't do that. We don't engage in anything like that, because we always believe in the supremacy of the rule of law, and we believe that whatever we are going to be doing, it has to comply with human dignity. There is no way we can involve ourselves in any negotiation or intercession or intervening on behalf of anybody or anything like that. We always believe that. That is why I'm always surprised when the government see us with suspicion.
What about the other people, not the disappeared? I mean, politically exposed people who are detained beyond the constitutional limit. At the moment, we have the former governor of Central Bank. He's been in detention for months. Something for the former head of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that is Rashid Bawa.
Yes.
People are not even talking about them.
Well,
and you are not championing it. We haven't had you try to raise awareness about why are they being held without trial.
Yes, we always notice these things, and people always ask questions. And I remember that, you know, when the former emir of Kano was dethroned and taken to one village in Nasarawa, and they are trying to hold him incommunicado, we intervened. We issued a short statement where we said that his fundamental rights has to be respected. But we are a very small team, a very small organization, and we always have to prioritize. At the same time, Abdul Rashid Bawa and the former CBN governor are going through their ordeals in the hands of the authorities. We are at the same time receiving stories of ordinary villagers being slaughtered in their villages in Plateau State, in Benue State, in Kaduna, some parts of Birnungwari and other places, even in Paskari local government in Katsina State, where people could not live in peace. And we have to prioritize. We are not saying that their own case is not, but it should be a shame on the Nigerian government that in this age, such arbitrary arrest can be done. Somebody can be held without a warrant of the court. In violation of the rule of law, someone can be held beyond the mandated period specified by the rule of law. We always condemn these things. We believe that whether a person is rich or not, whether he's a central bank governor or CBN or head of EFCC, we believe that what is happening to these individuals is unjust, unfair, and a violation of their rights. But the fact that we are not talking about it doesn't mean that we consider their case less important.
But you are prioritizing the ordinary people
definitely,
who may not have a voice, who may not have a PR machinery backing them.
And in Nigeria, where you are dealing with a situation whereby you are just about to retire to sleep, and somebody from one village will call you and tell you that, well, like 100 people have been killed in one village. So you have to prioritize, and what we are trying to do is to make sure that the government see the value in stopping these killings, making sure that at least a Nigerian can live his life with reasonable dignity without being killed.
Thank you very much, Malam Isa Sanusi.
Thank you, Manir. Thank you very much.
We've come to the end of this edition of 30 Minutes. Keep at it with us.